Hey, welcome back. Miranda here. In this session, we're going to be talking about the history, missions, and model of university student ministry within the Assemblies of God context. And so we're going to look a little bit at the American Assemblies of God campus ministry context and then move into the South African AOG group campus ministry context. I have often heard it said within the AOG group that you need a strong from to have a strong to. So meaning we need to have a good background, a good base to launch out of in order to have a strong going forward. And so I think it's important to look at where we've been, where we've come from, what the background is, what the history is, and I think that will help us even more move forward. So when we talk Assemblies of God University Student Ministry, the American side of things started in 1953, and it launched at Southwest Missouri State University. It's now just called Missouri State University, and that's in Springfield, Missouri. Springfield, Missouri is, the state of Missouri is kind of smack in the middle of America, and then Springfield is the headquarters for the American Assemblies of God. And so there was a university that was near them, and what was happening is they noticed that more and more of their students post-wartime were going to secular universities. And what I mean by secular university is a non-Bible or religious-based university. And so they noticed that their students were going to the secular universities, and they wanted to do something to kind of just help hold and maintain these students that were going to the university. Historically, from a church perspective, the university has kind of been seen as a dangerous place. Man, we don't want to send our students to a secular university because they're not going to come out, or the likelihood is they're not going to come out with their faith and relationship with God intact. And so this program, this ministry was started as a way to kind of protect the investment and just kind of keep our students safe in their relationship with God while they were at the university, while they were trying to get a degree. So this ministry, this American Assemblies of God campus ministry, is called Chi Alpha Christian Fellowship. And so what that comes from, or where the name comes from, is looking at 2 Corinthians 5:20, when Paul says, "We are therefore now Christ ambassadors, as though God were making his appeal through us. We implore you on God's behalf, be reconciled to God." And so if you look at the Greek words there, Christ ambassadors is coming from Christo Apostoli, which means Christ ambassadors are Christ sent ones. And so the name Chi Alpha is the abbreviation, the Greek abbreviation for Christo Apostoli. So again, originally this was set up as just a holding tank, really, kind of a place within the university to hang on to our students and make sure that they made it out with their relationship with God intact. Originally, this ministry was based out of the youth department within the Assemblies of God. In the 1970s, a group of Chi Alpha leaders from around the country got together to kind of plan and discuss, what is this that we want to be? What really is this Chi Alpha thing? Where are we headed with it? What do we want it to be? What could it be? And there was a shift that took place in that meeting, in that time, that then shifted everything in the realm of campus ministry in the Assemblies of God. And what happened is the shift went from we are just a holding tank to this should be a missions-minded organization. The university is an incredibly strategic mission field, and we need to treat it like that. We no longer should be afraid of the university or think that we just need to kind of hold our students together and protect them. We do want to protect the investment that we've made in our youth, and we want to give them a great place to walk out their relationship with God at the university. But it's not this big, bad, scary thing we need to be afraid of. It's actually a very strategic mission field that we need to engage with. And the impact that we could have, not just on our universities, but on our world, the global impact that we can have if we will get strategic with the university, is unimaginable. It's absolutely huge, the impact that we can have. And so it was in the 1970s that shift happened, the perspective shift happened. And so Chi Alpha was moved from the youth department to the missions department in the Assemblies of God. And really, when we look at the history of campus ministry in the Assemblies of God, that is the biggest and most important thing for me is that shift in the mindset. This is not just a holding tank. We're not just trying to protect our students, but we want to reach out and strategically share the gospel with all students that we can encounter. The university is a strategic mission field, and it's time as the church that we rise up and engage with that mission field. So fast forward then, and in the early 2000s is when we started to see some things happening with university student ministry within the AOG group. In the early 2000s, there was a group of leaders from the American Campus Ministry Department that came over just kind of to scout things out and see what are the possibilities. How could we help launch some things? How could we help reach university students in South Africa? It was shortly after that our first campus group kind of popped up here within the AOG group in South Africa. And so we began to see a wonderful university student ministry grow and flourish at UKZN in Pietermaritzburg. And so really that's kind of where we started to see things move forward from there in the realm of university student ministry. We're still seeing things grow and blossom. We're still kind of building that whole department and organization of things. But we are seeing things happen all around the country, not just at UKZN and Pietermaritzburg anymore, but we are on campuses throughout South Africa at this point. The University of Pretoria, Northwest University in Funnebel Park. We are seeing students come to know Christ in Grahamstown at Rhodes University, at Stellenbosch, at UCT. So we are seeing things happen on university campuses around the country, and this has just been within the last 10 to 15 years. What an exciting opportunity, what an exciting thing to be a part of, that we are impacting students all around the country. We can and we will make an impact on this country, on this continent, and on the world if we will continue to reach our university students all around the country. Moving forward within the AOG group here in South Africa, we will see the name Campus Connect become our kind of department organization name when it comes to university student ministry. And so you probably on the workbook and things like that for this, you saw Campus Connect South Africa, or you may even see C Squared Student Ministries, C Squared Campus Ministries. So those are kind of the two names, the branding that we're building for university student ministry in the AOG group here in South Africa. You are a part of something that is much bigger than just your local campus and your church. I mean, obviously you're a part of the kingdom of God, the family of God, and that is massive. But in terms of university student ministry, you're not alone. Does that make you feel better? For me, that's always a huge thing. Man, I'm not the only one trying to do this. And I think it's important that our students know that as well. You're not the only students that are trying to make a difference. There are students just like you all over the country and all over the world that are wanting to make a difference, that are seeing their mission field, seeing their university as the mission field, and rising up to engage that and to be a part of that. And so we want our students to see that. So again, the biggest thing for me in looking at our history is that shift from we're just protecting our people to, man, this is a strategic mission field and we want to engage it. When we look at the university, there's a couple of key components for me. There's two key things that I want to explore a little bit and talk about. These are kind of what I would call the two primary keys to the university when we're talking about university student ministry. So the two main keys that we want to look at in terms of university student ministry is one, meeting students where they are. So I know for a lot of us, maybe our church is right across the street from the university, or it's right next door, or maybe it's just a few Ks from the university. And so we think that, oh yeah, like we will just bring students in. But really one of the biggest things that we can do, one of the biggest barriers that we can pull down for students is meeting them exactly where they are. And that means that we physically are taking ourselves to the university and meeting students on their campus. The thing with a university is that it is its own entity, it's its own culture, it's its own little phenomena, and it's its own little community. And so students are more likely to engage with things that come into their community, into their context, than they are likely to go out and seek something else out or take the effort and the energy to leave campus, to leave the university, and to be a part of something. And so one of the biggest things that we can do is meet students exactly where they are. In 1 Corinthians 9:22, Paul said, "To the weak I became weak, to win the weak. I have become all things to all people, so that by all possible means I might save some." When I read that, it reminds me of this whole premise that we're talking about, this whole key of meeting students where they are. Paul says, "I became all things to all men, so that by all possible means some of them might be saved." And so I look at that and say, man, for university students, I'm willing to come and meet you where you are so that you may be able to encounter Christ. If we just want to stand back and wait for the students to come to us, we're going to see very little return for our investment, and we're going to have very little impact on the university. If we want to impact the university, we need to go to the university and engage it. And again, I know that may sound a little bit absurd, a little bit out there, especially if your church is right across the street. But again, we want to meet students where they are. We want to pull down as many barriers as possible for them. Another aspect of that same key is that for some students, it's simply the fact that it's a church. You want me to go to a church, and maybe, there is a history of they had bad experiences with the church, or maybe it's that they've had no previous church experience. But whatever it may be, for some students at that point in their life, they may have some sort of issue with, I don't want to go to church. So if we can meet them where they are with the exact same God that's inside our church building, obviously because he's everywhere all the time, if we can engage them on the university campus, on their home turf, their home field with God, and allow them to encounter him there, that is going to reach them, that's going to pull down barriers, and that's going to set them up for the best possible opportunity to come into a saving relationship with Christ. Also, by meeting students where they are, we're exemplifying that God is everywhere all the time. You don't have to come into a specific building to encounter him, but God can meet you in your dorm room, in your lecture hall, in the dining hall on campus, in your residence. It doesn't matter. God can meet you wherever you are. And so we want to introduce students to Christ right there in the middle of their university. The second key for the university is that we're building community. This whole thing of university student ministry revolves around building a community. There's one scripture for me that sums this all up perfectly, and it's 1 Thessalonians 2:8. And 1 Thessalonians 2:8 says this, "So we cared for you. Because we loved you so much, we were delighted to share with you not only the gospel of God, but our lives as well." For me, that's the heart of the gospel across the board, and it exemplifies what we're trying to do in terms of building community on our campuses in order to reach students. We love students so much. We love people so much, and we care about them so much that it's not just about sharing the gospel with them, but it's about living life with them as well. And so if we want to live life with students, we need to engage where they are, like we talked about in that first key, and we need to build a community that they can be a part of. In these communities, it's in this context of community that we want to build, that students are able to come in and see what it is for students to be living out a relationship with God on their university campus. It also allows them a warm and safe environment to come and ask their questions. Maybe they have really big questions. Maybe they have questions that they've been afraid to ask because they think they'll look silly. But if we can build really genuine, strategic, authentic communities, then that will provide a place for students to come in, ask any questions that they may have, and truly have an opportunity to encounter God and turn their lives over to him and build relationships that will walk them from this life into the next. So our universities are very strategic mission fields. They're worth engaging. They deserve to be engaged. And then also, they deserve for us to come and meet them where they are and help build communities that provide places for them to encounter God and develop relationship with him. So how does our local church fit into that? What is the strategy or the model behind that? If we're going into the university, then what does that have to do with the local church, and what is their role? Well, we want our local churches across the board to be student friendly. We want our churches to be welcoming of students. We want them to be a place where students do feel like they could be at home, where they can come in and be a part. students may look different than what our congregations typically look like. They may dress different. They have different vocabulary and languages sometimes. And so we need to be okay with that. As a church, we shouldn't expect students to come in looking exactly like the rest of our church or the rest of our congregation or whoever our typical church member is, but we should be expecting students to look a little bit different, dress a little bit different. And we want to be open and friendly and welcome and inviting no matter what they look like, no matter what their background, no matter who they are. We also want to be sensitive to their time demands. It would be easy for us to see students come in and want them to come and be a part and serve and really be a part of our local church. And that is something that we desire as people come into the church. But the thing to keep in mind with our university students is we want them to plug in and invest and engage the university. They have 3, maybe 4 years at the university level, and this is the only time in their lives that they can be missionaries to the university. And so it's our job as the local church to love them, to make them feel at home, to pour in and invest as much as we can, and then to release them back into the university. We want to release them so that they can be missionaries to their local university. That's the way we're going to make a difference. That's the way that we're going to be able to reach our university, is by training, equipping, loving, investing into these students, and then sending them into the university to reach their peers, to make a difference, to disciple. So we want to make sure that we're loving, we're warm, we're friendly, we're student friendly, but we want to make sure that we're not trying to pull them in. We want to send them into the university. And I think as we do that, we will build lifelong followers of Christ that then 3-4 years down the road, when they finish their degree, the church is going to reap massive benefits of that as they then kind of come back into and really plug in and become vital parts and members of our local church bodies. It's such an incredible opportunity to impact the university. And again, we will see that investment come back to us. It may just take a couple of years. It may not be right away. We want to release them to the university while they can be there, while they can do that, while they're in that phase of life. And then they will come back to us after that and be incredible local church members and do incredible things in marketplaces and in communities surrounding and around our local churches and in our communities. So again, our local churches should be warm, friendly, loving students, engaging the university, seeing it as a strategic mission field, helping to equip students, helping to pull down those barriers, meeting students where they are, and also helping to build community. The local church is the hope of the world. It truly is. And if the local church and that hope can see the university as a mission field and release students to it, we will see phenomenal things happen around our country and around our world.